August 2nd, and Putin has had a heart attack.
They got hit, look. They got into the database, those absolute bastards.
Russian ships in the Pacific and Northern fleets, as well as nuclear submarines, are under a new attack by the SBU. Iskander ballistic missile launchers have been blown up, and military airfields with strategic nuclear aviation are on fire. The SBU has attacked facilities of Russia's nuclear triad.
Something's on fire.
Factories that produce the intercontinental nuclear ballistic missiles Topol and Yars have been blown up. Russia's nuclear triad is under attack. Breaking news, friends! Ukraine has attacked 2 strategic nuclear airfields. Where the strategic nuclear bombers Engels and Dyagilevo are located. They didn't just hit themselves, they really hit themselves. For the very first time, Ukraine has successfully attacked ballistic missiles in the region of Bryansk. They are currently detonating, causing significant impact.
So that's where the sheds are burning. Everything is on fire. Clearly a lot is going to burn there. It looks like the fire trucks aren't there yet. I wish they would get here soon.
This was a powerful special operation by the Security Service of Ukraine and other Ukrainian intelligence agencies. These were command posts for Iskander ballistic missiles in the Bryansk region. Ukraine is also preparing attacks on Russian ships in the Pacific Ocean. According to the publication, Kyiv is planning an operation using naval drones hidden in cargo containers to strike Russian ships and their allies in the northern part of the Pacific Ocean. Ukraine has attacked 2 out of 3 elements of the nuclear triad and is continuing further. A new phase of the SBU special operation is being prepared. Moreover, the Yaroslavl Motor Plant was on fire in Russia. This is one of the plants where engines are manufactured for the Topol-M complex vehicles, the intercontinental nuclear missiles Topol-M. In other words, essentially the nuclear triad. Let's discuss all this with the President of the Assembly of the Peoples of the Caucasus, Ruslan Kutaev. Ruslan Kutaev, welcome.
Dasha, good afternoon. Greetings to our viewers.
Ruslan Kutaev, we attacked ballistic missile launchers in Bryansk. This is a historic event. Let's start with that. What do you have to say about the attacks by the armed forces of Ukraine?
Well, this is a logical continuation of Ukraine's behavior. Ukraine is now starting to act much further, delving deeper into enemy territory, and the vast sprawling expanse of the Russian military-industrial complex, let's say, industry, possesses a great many diverse enterprises of various kinds spread across its extensive territory. These include numerous warehouses, and there are also many military units strategically located throughout the region. And as we can clearly see, the Ukrainian special services are demonstrating, first and foremost, that they possess precise knowledge of where everything is strategically located. Secondly, that they are fully capable of effectively reaching and striking these specific targets. And thirdly, that they have systematically and quite dynamically commenced carrying out extensive work to completely destroy all of this. You were absolutely right to point out here, these are indeed intercontinental ballistic missiles, which are inherently capable of carrying a devastating nuclear warhead. These missiles are also being destroyed. And here I think it's certainly worth mentioning to our esteemed viewers that just yesterday, when the Russian forces were actually preparing to retaliate against Ukraine with a truly heavy, powerful and devastating strike, Ukrainian intelligence agencies meticulously detected the significant activity of these very specific Iskander missile launchers. It is known for certain that 1 Iskander launcher was destroyed and 2 were damaged. So these 6 incoming missiles, which were apparently and precisely aimed at some critically important administrative buildings within the bustling city of Kyiv, were successfully intercepted and utterly destroyed, and essentially the very beginning of Putin's insidious and malevolent plan was decisively thwarted. And of course, after that significant and unexpected setback, they truly lost the crucial momentum that could have genuinely inspired the Russian orcs, as well as Vladimir Putin himself and his immediate inner circle. So look here, it's becoming very interesting to observe precisely how Hour by hour, the Ukrainian special services are acting more and more actively and with increasing effectiveness. They are not only inflicting significant damage, but even in real time, they manage to meticulously observe, gather crucial intelligence on the precise actions of Russian missile systems, effectively destroy them, and cause substantial losses. This is a significant improvement in the skills and conduct of the Ukrainian special services, military command, and of course the drone operators and missile crews. All of them are acting very successfully and skillfully, destroying Russian installations and the Russian military-industrial complex throughout the entire territory of Russia.
Operation Web continues. The SBU attacked two airfields, Engels and Dyagilevo, that is, two bases for Russia's strategic aviation, as well as an oil depot that supplies fuel to Russia's strategic nuclear aviation. At least 3 storage tanks are currently burning at the Kombinat Crystal oil products storage facility of the Russian State Reserve. In other words, we continue to attack the bases of strategic nuclear aviation. Operation Web is ongoing. A Mi-8 helicopter was destroyed, and a Mi-35 was damaged as a result of drone attacks, including at Bryansk airport last night. Ruslan Kutaev, the floor is yours.
These vital reserves, specifically the state reserves of crucial fuel, particularly aviation fuel, yes, 3 significant storage tanks were indeed hit, but according to the very latest and most current information available, everything is already actively leaking out from there, and 3 additional tanks have subsequently caught fire. And this alarming situation is still very much ongoing, and it's entirely possible that it will unfortunately continue further for some time. Firefighters, as we know from similar incidents at various oil depots, often can't even precisely localize the fire. Usually, it rapidly spreads from one tank to another, engulfs industrial facilities, let's say critical oil processing units, and all of it, well, essentially becomes completely consumed by the fire. I think over there as well, the situation is still unresolved. The fire is still raging, and it's still unclear how much will be destroyed as a result of this operation and the actions of the Ukrainian side.
We'll discuss a bit later the fact that Ukraine is preparing attacks on Russian ships in the Pacific Ocean, and that Sevastopol and Crimea have been hit by Neptunes. But for now, I'd like us to focus on a very interesting and important topic. Friends, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let me know in the comments what you think about this. Now, something like a hazelnut exploded in the sky over Kazakhstan and broke apart into pieces. And the first to report this were Russian military correspondents, also known as Russian war reporters or Zetniks. They wrote about the failed launch of the Orishnik. Kapustin Yar is close to the border with Kazakhstan. That night, Putin decided to attack Ukraine. He did attack it, and he surely wanted to use the Orishnik, an intercontinental missile. The question is, does this Orishnik actually exist? Did it explode? And why did it explode? Ruslan Kutaev. Let's think this through together.
First of all, I served in Kopeisk. I served at the very base, the testing ground we're talking about now, in the automotive troops of the missile and artillery forces. And indeed, tests of intercontinental ballistic missiles were conducted there. The Astrakhan region borders Kazakhstan there, which at the time was the Guryev region. And yes, they were tested and launched there. And this launch was supposed to, I analyzed what the experts are saying. The Orishnik was most likely launched. And the undeniable fact that we now possess clear pictures and detailed recordings most likely indicates that somewhere high above the vast Kazakh steppes, while still in the air, this Orishnik missile tragically exploded, and it was actually unable not only to fully complete its intended mission, but essentially even to properly begin its crucial course toward Ukraine. What does this tell us? We know that during the first strikes in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the Orishnik accomplished less than 5% of what Russia had expected. There was no destruction there. They hit a training center there, and that was all they managed to do. And now, too, it seems they tried to use the Orishnik for this purpose. They were very upset. They needed to show the orcs back in Russia that they're still a force to be reckoned with, that they can still do something, scare someone. But it's not working. It's just not working. They had a failure with the Iskanders. Ukraine destroyed them when they were deployed in the Bryansk region on the front line for an attack on Kiev. With the Orishnik, as we can see, it was a failure on all fronts. The Russian missile operators and artillerymen, no matter how hard they try, just can't make it work. And it doesn't work because all of this is built exclusively on Soviet-era weaponry. There's nothing new. They haven't accomplished anything. All their claims, all those cartoons have remained just cartoons. and they can't move beyond that. This is indeed the significant problem for Vladimir Putin, for the Russian armed forces, and for the entire Russian fascist horde that would like to brutally drown the entire innocent population of Ukraine in blood and despair. It's not because they don't want to, it's because it just doesn't happen. They can't do it. This is what we need to understand and be aware of.
Ruslan Kutaev, let's return to the topic of Russia's nuclear triad, which everyone is talking about right now and which in fact was attacked by Ukraine and its special services. All the world leaders have written about this now. They even made an official statement about it. Kaja Kallas officially stated that this is unprecedented. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and even Donald Trump, through his sources, conveyed that he too was stunned by the SBU's special operation. And here, last time we talked about the need to attack the Russian Federation's fleet, the nuclear submarines. There is the Northern Fleet of the Russian Federation, which was attacked, and there is the Pacific Fleet of the Russian Federation. We discussed this with you. And just on the eve of our stream today, the Washington Post published a piece saying that Ukraine is preparing attacks on Russian ships in the Pacific Ocean. According to the publication, Kyiv is planning an operation to use naval drones hidden in cargo containers to strike Russian ships and their allies in the northern part of the Pacific Ocean. But it's very hard for me to imagine that Ukrainian intelligence services would announce their attacks through the Washington Post. Why was this done? Let's, in general, discuss the attacks on the Pacific Fleet, on the Northern Fleet, and how much of a blow this would actually be for Putin.
Let's agree on something first, Dasha. The Washington Post, Bloomberg, and other highly reputable newspapers are certainly not the kind of media outlets that would, let's say, intentionally spread demonstrably false news. If these prominent and credible journalistic institutions meticulously investigated and subsequently reported on a particular matter, then without a shadow of a doubt, they possess substantial and verifiable grounds to confidently assert their claims and present their findings. First, second, if the Ukrainian intelligence services, armed forces, and political leadership did not prohibit this from being published, it means they have sufficient grounds to believe that this operation is under extremely tight cover and that they are confident that, regardless of the fact that it was made public, they will be able to carry this operation through to the end. Third, and this is very important, the Pacific Fleet, as we understand, North Korea is now responding, and Shoigu is currently in North Korea. Russia is demanding soldiers, and North Korea is supplying ammunition, weapons, and sending people. And now it is very, very important if Ukraine really does this, and I am absolutely convinced that they will indeed be able to accomplish it. And they manage to reach Vladivostok, Khabarovsk, the entire vast Far East region. And if they even slightly manage to successfully hit some significant ships, some crucial movements, I don't know, perhaps large tankers or valuable cargo vessels, then in this particular case, Russia will not just be put in an extremely uncomfortable and difficult position. Russia will be in a state of, well, crisis, because this is the area where practically all these ports are exposed, even the military bases. Everything that was there in terms of air defense and missile defense has been moved here closer to the front, to Moscow and away from there. If such a threat arises now, if suddenly drones start flying, and they will, then in that case, they'll have to pull something away from there, from the front, from here, from the center, and bam, transfer it over there to the Far East. This is bad news for Russia. How are they going to compensate for that? It's impossible to predict because China can't openly provide them with missile defense or air defense systems. North Korea simply doesn't have the means to protect against such weapons. As for Russia, it either doesn't produce them at all, or if it does, it's only 1 or 2 units per year. There are no spare parts, and they don't have the kind of machinery needed to produce such complex military equipment as missile and air defense systems. So, to be honest, these are extremely serious problems. But even here, you and I have talked about the fact that these problems would arise. We've said that Ukraine is developing its technological capabilities. Germany. Merz stated that in the coming weeks, significant joint Ukrainian-German productions will already be deployed to the front lines for immediate use. Specifically, Ukraine will be actively utilizing advanced missiles produced jointly by Germany and Ukraine, marking a crucial step in their defense capabilities. These are the first results not just of supplying weapons and ammunition, but of the work of joint ventures in Ukraine's military-industrial complex with Europeans, with the British, with the Germans, with the Poles. And these are exactly the results. That's why they're able to reach Irkutsk. That's why there are real reasons to believe they'll reach Vladivostok too, and everywhere else, even Murmansk. So our expectations aren't just wishful thinking. Our expectations are genuinely high, and all of this combined is destroying Russian logistics. Ammunition and weapons, people, they can't even manage to bring them up to the front. They can't even get them to the front line zone, and they're being destroyed there. That's how things are working. Relationships and the overall approach to everything are constantly improving and evolving. It's no coincidence that Russian war correspondents are making a fuss. They're talking, for example, about the appointment of Madyar as the commander of drones in Ukraine. What an uproar this caused. A man who sat in the trenches, but as some ordinary soldier or sergeant started out as an operator. What he accomplished. Could something like that even be possible in Russia? Never, under any circumstances, could such a rise happen in Russia just because of someone's personal qualities. It's impossible. But in Ukraine, it is possible, and that's why they're winning. That's why Ukrainian engineering thought is ahead. Why is that? Because here the principle is, if you can, take the lead. If you know how, create. That's the Ukrainian principle, and that's why they're winning. There's no need to be surprised here. They will keep moving forward. That's the overall outlook for this ongoing war.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
We are expecting another series of explosions in Crimea. Military targets in Simferopol have been attacked with Neptunes. There is a kilometer-long line of trucks at the Chonha checkpoint entering the annexed Crimea, a huge number of explosions. And once again, the Kerch Bridge is under attack. There is an alert there. But before we discuss this, the segment called Occupied Crimea, Shamkam Ilyich, I want us to talk about a very important point. The West, Europe, and America did not provide us with all the weapons because they were afraid of nuclear escalation. They were afraid of that nuclear triad. They were afraid that if they gave Ukraine weapons to win, to attack Russia deep inside its territory, to drive the Russians out of our land, Russia would start World War III, a nuclear war, and so on. And now Ukraine is showing that we have attacked Russia's nuclear triad, and there is no nuclear war. Let's just discuss this precedent together. So Ukraine did this with drones, not with multi-billion-dollar weapons. In other words, we attacked multi-billion-dollar weapons, about $7 billion in total, using drones, unmanned aerial vehicles.
Indeed, at first, when this incredibly powerful nuclear, well, more precisely, the highly advanced aviation of the highest strategic purpose and immense destructive capability was completely destroyed, it was widely assumed and firmly believed that after this catastrophic event, if they ever truly intended to use nuclear weapons in any capacity, it would be a decision of unimaginable consequence and global impact. By the way, that's exactly what they were shouting about over there in Russia, in Moscow. The war correspondents, they were encouraging the political and military leadership to use it if they ever intended to do so. But we knew that they would never do it. Why won't they do it? Because they are hostages to the situation they themselves created. Their families, their money, their status, all of it depends on the West. They study there, they live there, they keep their money there in the West. They didn't start this war to die or for some idea. They started it because of the whim of a madman who, somewhere deep inside, was offended by something. So what? The president is young, a progressive president of Ukraine, and all of that bothered Putin about him. His youth, his intelligence, his insight. And he decided, as he said himself, to teach this jester, this clown, a lesson. And in the end, it turned out that Putin was the real jester, he was the clown, and he was the coward. As soon as a situation arises that could even be slightly dangerous, he runs away, he hides, he's afraid to make a decision. So after this brilliant operation was carried out, he called Trump, and to Trump, he was complaining to little Trump there, saying that Ukraine was committing terrorist acts. And Trump's behavior is unclear. The president of the greatest country, the state, what is he doing? He is, in fact, voicing some kind of terrorist demands on behalf of a terrorist state, and Trump announces these demands to the whole world. In fact, these are Putin's demands, that Putin is going to respond to Ukraine in the harshest way possible. Not only did Trump not object, he actually broadcasted it. So it turns out that Trump, in Putin's hands, is the tool used by terrorists. And here, what America was essentially obligated to do, there was no such action, but within America itself, this was given a very serious assessment. They pulled Trump up short. He did this somewhere on his social media, recorded it, and then they quickly removed Trump's recording because it was absolutely obvious that Trump had basically caved in and is afraid of Putin. People in America understand that Putin is using Trump as a tool. Putin did everything to put pressure on Ukraine. Putin did everything to use Trump. He really is taking advantage of him. And all of this, I repeat, taken together from different points of view and from different platforms, no matter who is broadcasting or making noise, in any case, Ukraine has not only not backed down, not only not stopped. And as we discussed a little earlier, Ukraine has continued its operations. Ukraine is not looking back at anyone. Today, Ukraine understands that it will only have what it achieves on its own. It's not European weapons, it's not American weapons, but Ukrainian drones that managed to accomplish what they did. And now, regarding what was said in the Washington Post, they didn't say they would strike with American Tomahawks. No, what they said was that Ukrainian drones will reach Vladivostok and will attack the Pacific Fleet. This is the true character of Ukraine, the character of the Ukrainian military and the Ukrainian president. They don't stop at anything, they keep moving forward. And this is the only thing that can stop Trump, Putin, and everyone else.
Shamkal, Russian public pages and media have reported that Putin had a heart attack, and that's why he hasn't appeared in public for a long time. I would like you to comment on this.
Well, I wouldn't rule it out. If he ever does have a heart attack, then eventually it has to happen, because it's one blow after another, literally one after the other, hitting him. Look, for example, at the meeting between the Chancellor of Germany and the President of the United States, he arranged his meeting very skillfully, beautifully, and diplomatically. And what a principled stance the German leader demonstrated. He did not in any way, in any issue, refuse to support Ukraine. He made it absolutely and unequivocally clear to President Trump that the nation which launched this unprovoked and aggressive attack is undeniably Russia, and that it is this very country that is unequivocally and demonstrably bringing forth profound evil and destruction upon the world. And so when Ukraine is supported from all sides, when Ukraine is advancing on the front lines, when Ukrainians are getting stronger, just look at how much effort and how much money has been poured into Ukrainian society just to find at least 3 people who would crow that Zelensky should be removed or that the war should be stopped. They can't even find 2 or 3 people to support what they've been shouting about for 3.5 years, to get support in Ukraine, in Ukrainian society, among the Ukrainian people. Of course, from this, not only will he have a heart attack, I think he'll soon be finished altogether. And that's why I think others understand this too, other people, even those close to him. Actually, why, if you remember, we discussed this together. Right now, most likely, there are serious talks about removing Putin from office, and in order to keep him from interfering, they're considering using one of his daughters. There's talk about Tikhonova, and that's why I think this is also real and it's also serious. Putin understands he can't win. Putin understands he was hoping that Trump could do something, that he could hand over Ukraine as a side that has already capitulated. Trump can't do that. He can't, because besides Trump, there's also Congress, there's the US Senate, and in the end, there's the American court system. And there are the American people, 67% of whom support Ukraine. And all of this together doesn't even give the Russian political leadership hope that help might come from somewhere. That by forcing Ukraine and Europe, which is a close ally of Ukraine, to yield, Russia could be granted victory. Victory Russia cannot win. Russia needs someone to hand them victory. There is no player today who can do that. And that's why we can confidently say Ukraine is moving toward its victory. Ukraine is doing everything to win. And going forward, this will happen much more often and more effectively. And over there on the Russian side, they know and understand this.
Some Kaddish to sum up regarding occupied Crimea. Right now, we are carrying out a huge number of special operations, attacking the military airfield and the Kerch Bridge for the third time. And now, once again, Neptunes are attacking Crimea. Moreover, according to local social media channels, the entry of trucks onto the Kerch Bridge has been closed. When entering the peninsula via the so-called land corridor through the occupied territories, security forces are searching every truck with a magnifying glass in search of good drones. Well, and in general, there is already information that the Kerch Bridge is closed again, and it is expecting a strike. There's an air raid alert. What do you think?
After the Ukrainian Neptunes, the German Tauruses will follow? I have no doubt about that. They're taking aim. Did you notice? Right now, there's a lot of commotion around the Kerch Bridge, both from the land side, from Crimea, and from Krasnodar, from both sides of the Kerch Bridge, and from the water. And these maritime drones, everything is being deployed now. They're searching for the most effective way to strike. Strikes with Tauruses, the effectiveness of these missiles has long been known worldwide. They will definitely try them out on the Kerch Bridge. There in Crimea, they already understand this. They understand. Why? How do I know this? They're fleeing from there. People who just came to set up a business, some were lured in, some came voluntarily, some wanted to live there, some needed to settle down. They understand that you can't build a life there anymore. They understand that the noose is tightening. So what do they want? They want to escape from Crimea. They understand that they could become hostages, not hostages of Ukraine, but hostages of the FSB NKVD troops, who won't let them leave and will keep them as hostages because there's a danger that through this bottleneck in the Kherson region, the Ukrainian army might and will definitely attack Crimea as well. That's why they will continue trying to keep these residents of Crimea as hostages. That's why everyone understands, and that's why everyone is running away.
Yes, by any means, freestyle, breaststroke, however you like, just urgently leave Ukrainian Crimea. A brilliant analysis by the President of the Assembly of the Peoples of the Caucasus, Shalva Kutaev. Dear friends, please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the comments, write a few kind words in support of Ukraine and the armed forces of Ukraine, because we work for an audience all over the world so that they know the truth about Russian aggression. That's why every comment and every subscription from you is priceless. Thank you. Shalva Kadizic, thank you very much. As always, see you soon.
See you soon. Dear friends, please support Dasha and her channel. You will hear good news from this channel many more times. All the best. Take care.